Welcome everyone to the International Women's Day celebration today, March 8th, which is International Women's Day. This is an event that we've been doing for probably the last 6 years. We want to welcome everyone to this important occasion, especially for this year. I want to start off by introducing the organizations that are putting this event on, and then we can get right into it. My name is Anne Marie Wallace. I'm the State Director of the Women's Business Center of Utah. This is an entrepreneurial center for women statewide that provides services including counseling and training for women entrepreneurs. Our services right now are absolutely free. And before COVID, they were almost all free anyway, so we're here to help. Our center has been around since 1997, and we are we're hosted by the Salt Lake Chamber. Our services are given out and provided in 2 different offices. That includes our office in Salt Lake City and one in Cedar City to be able to serve the entire state of Utah. Our mission is to help women build confidence, create opportunities, and experience success in business ownership. And we are going to be joined by World Trade Center Utah, and we've actually always collaborated on this event, usually in person, but this year is a little different, as we already know. I want to turn some time over to Miles, if he is here, to introduce himself and the World Trade Center Utah.
Thank you very much, Anne Marie. This is my favorite event of the year. And it's funny, Anne Marie, if you think about it, this was the last large event that we did last year, right before the pandemic started. We were there at Ember, which is a beautiful event hosting space. Probably 130 women were there. And I love this event because of the energy and the vibrancy that is there each and every time we do this. So we're replicating that virtually, of course, as we've all become very used to doing over the past year. But I'm so grateful for everybody for participating today and for the phenomenal organizations that are partnering with us. And Maven Create does such an incredible work. I just was looking at their website. And their mission is to unleash your biggest, baddest, most inspired self. And if that doesn't sum up International Women's Day, I don't know what does. Also very grateful, Anne Marie, for your partnership. The Women's Business Center is such a phenomenal resource here in the state of Utah. And I strongly encourage any women who are thinking about launching a business or in the throes of growing a business to reach out and to benefit from the many programs and services that they provide. As I think about this event, what I enjoy most about it is I think about my 3 daughters. And I think about, and I just wish that they were old enough to come and participate in this event, like another few years and they'll be right there. But to come and to see these incredible women who are leading out in business and in community, and now it's Lieutenant Governor across the state. And it's inspiring. And I want them to live in a world where they have no limitations on what they can do, what they can create, and what they can achieve as they lead out in whatever spheres that they choose to lead out in. And so thank you again for all of our panelists for being here. And a special thanks to Lieutenant Governor Henderson for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us. You personify how important it is to hear and amplify the voices of women in business, in communities, in families, in states, and across our country. So thank you for your leadership here in the state of Utah. It's been inspiring to see you go across the state to help roll out the vaccine effort. The vaccines are going to enable and guarantee that next year we're able to gather again in person. I'm also very grateful to our other panelists later on in the program, Pat Jones, who leads the Women's Leadership Institute. Many members of our team have benefited from the Leadership Institute and the incredible work that Pat is doing in the community. Rochelle Morris, who is Vice President for Private Banking at JP Morgan Chase and a board member of World Trade Center Utah. And very quickly, Rochelle just joined our board. We were in a board meeting about a month ago. And John Huntsman, the chair of World Trade Center Utah, mentioned something about JP Morgan Chase. Rochelle took note, called them out, promised to take some action. And within a week and a half, she had confirmed Jamie Dimon, who runs JP Morgan Chase, to come and partner with us to do an event here in the state of Utah. And right then, I knew before, but that again underscored for me how phenomenal of a leader Rochelle is and how great of an asset she is to the community. And finally, our other panelists, I'd just like to welcome here on screen, Heidi Kuhn. Heidi is an inspiration to all of us. I look forward to anybody on the call today who hasn't met Heidi. Make sure you stay tuned in. You have a chance to listen to her. Heidi runs Roots of Peace, which is a global nonprofit that is committed. It has a vision to turn mines to vines, rehabilitating minefields and turning that into agricultural land. And Heidi, it's so great to see you on screen. You're an inspiration. We look forward to hearing from you in a little bit. Last but not least, just like to underscore how grateful we are to Hannah Hutt on the World Trade Center Utah team. Hannah leads out on all of our events and does a phenomenal job at that. So thank you, Hannah, for everything that you've done today. And finally, this is the same pitch I give every year. World Trade Center Utah is dedicated to helping Utah companies grow faster. We provide a number of grants and services. And for any women-owned business, we always have a commitment that we will set aside a portion of our grant funding so that any eligible women business that applies for a grant from us, we're able to grant that request and provide not just the grant, resources to help a company grow globally, whether that's, revamping your website, internationalizing your products, your services, or exploring new market opportunities. We have funding to help you grow. And then we also have services that we can plug in and provide consulting advice to help you identify global opportunities and go out there in the international marketplace to compete and win. So again, thank you, Anne-Marie, for the honor of partnering every year with you on this event. And I'll go ahead and pass the baton back to you.
Thank you, Miles, so very much. One thing that's really important for everyone to know that as a woman in business, there are a lot of customers outside of our borders. And that is a place you can absolutely grow your business. So we're pleased to be a part of this with World Trade Center Utah. And again, to celebrate just being a woman in our country, in our state, and in the world. So I want to review our, our schedule for today so everyone knows what's going to happen. And one thing I would like to know or to share with you is that this is being recorded. So if you would like to not appear on anything, just make sure you keep your camera off, although we love as many cameras on as we can. So right now, I'm going to share with you the agenda. Our first speaker is going to be our keynote, our Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson. After her, we're going to have a video about International Women's Day. If this is a new holiday for you, welcome, and we're excited to share that with you. We're going to do some announcements about our directory, which we'll talk about later. And then we have a giveaway for a lucky person, a lucky woman here in our audience on Zoom. And then we're going to have a short presentation on Kiva, which is a program that the Women's Business Center hosts here to help more women access capital. And that's an important thing to be able to grow and to start a business is access to money. So at this time, before I do that, I forgot to mention, we are actually here at Maven Create, a few of us, as a watch party. So Maven Create is a co-working space that's attached to a lot of things that help women here in Salt Lake City. We're grateful to have them hosting us here and grateful that they are a support to women business owners. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speaker, this Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson. She is a fabulous person. She's been able to really increase a lot of good things in our state. She's second only to our governor. And as a woman, we welcome her and turn the time over to her for her thoughts.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And thank you to all of you for the opportunity and the great honor it is to join you today on International Women's Day. And I really want to give a heartfelt thanks to each one of you for the things that you are doing to elevate and empower women in our state. Thank you so much for that. As Lieutenant Governor of the state of Utah, I recognize that I owe so much to the women who came before me, who blazed the trail before me. And today, I want to honor them, their innovation, their courage, their hard work, and especially their persistence. Utah's incredible women's history starts in the mid-1800s when women in the state who were angry at the negative things that were being said about them and the way they were being portrayed on the national stage began hosting indignation meetings where they demanded to be seen and heard. In January of 1870, thousands of Utah women gathered in what they called the Great Indignation Meeting. And this is a meeting they gathered to demand the vote. The New York Herald reported this meeting as one of the grandest assemblages in all history and declared that Utah women had both brains and tongues. Only a few short weeks later, the all-male territorial legislature of Utah unanimously voted for women's suffrage. And on February 14th, 1870, Sarah Young, a 23-year-old school teacher, stopped by Council Hall on her way to work and became the first woman in the United States to cast a ballot under an equal suffrage law. Utah was way ahead of its time, but it didn't last. In 1887, the right for women to vote was eliminated in the Utah Territory when Congress passed the Edmunds-Tucker Act. So women had to start over. Today, I want to honor the determination of Utah suffragists such as Sarah Kimball, Emmeline B. Wells, Jenny Froiseth, Emily Richards, and scores of other Utahns, including forward-thinking men who kept pushing for women's voting rights. In the long and heated debate for suffrage during our state's constitutional convention in 1895, opponents warned that women were needed at home. Women were too virtuous to vote, they said, and women had a tendency to rule more readily by their sympathies than men did, was the argument against women's suffrage. But the majority of delegates to the convention chose equality. And 125 years ago, in 1896, when Utah gained statehood, women regained the right to vote and hold office as part of the state's new constitution. I want to also honor the courage and vision of Alice Kasai. She was a fearless leader and a strong advocate for Utah's Japanese community. When her husband was arrested and taken to an internment camp during World War II, Alice became president of the Japanese American Civic League and pushed for civil rights and full citizenship of Japanese immigrants. Throughout her life, Alice organized and advocated for fair housing, education, and international peace, which are values that are embodied in the International Peace Garden, which she helped found. And finally, I honor the work ethic and leadership of Governor Olene Walker. Young Olene dreamed of becoming president, and she worked hard to become a strong and effective leader. She was PTA president at every school attended by her 7 children. She finished her doctorate while serving in the Utah House of Representatives, and her reputation as a doer earned her the respect of her colleagues who elected her as majority whip. Thanks to Olene, Utah has a rainy day fund and a fund for affordable housing. She once said, "Look at your life and ask yourself, what do I need to do for my children? What do I need to do for my neighborhood, my community, or my church, regardless of which church I belong to? There are many worthwhile things for people to do. They just need to do them, not just talk about them." Women in Utah have a long track record of doing, not just talking. And there's plenty more to do. We hear about the low college graduation rates among Utah women, the high domestic violence rates, and unequal pay for equal work. And that was before COVID-19. We know that nationally, women are bearing the economic burden of this pandemic, with 4 times more women than men leaving the workforce to care for their families as childcare options evaporate and schools shift online. Dubbed the She Session, this disruption to work and education that we've seen in the past year in 2020 is disproportionately affecting women, effectively wiping out 30 years of economic progress in the course of 9 months. As our state and nation emerge from this pandemic, we have a tremendous opportunity to rethink our support systems for women and families. As part of our One Utah Roadmap, which is the plan for our administration's first 500 days, we're working to boost opportunities for women through upskilling and retraining, scholarships and mentoring, improved childcare options, and creative solutions with the private sector. We've started laying the groundwork to strengthen current programs and initiate new efforts that empower women and expand opportunities for advancement and leadership. And we're leading by example. The Cox-Henderson administration has increased the number of women in our senior staff positions, in our cabinet, and in executive roles throughout state government. Like our foremothers, today's Utah women are innovative, courageous, hardworking, and persistent. I'm inspired by the strength and tenacity of the remarkable women who came before me, and I have so much hope in the next generation of Utah women who will follow. But now it's our turn. And through collaboration, imagination, courage, and hard work, we too can expand meaningful opportunities that will truly improve the lives of women and families in Utah for generations to come. The words of suffragist Emily Richards are as relevant today as they were when she spoke them more than a century ago. Quote, "The work has but begun. The cause is in its merest infancy. that which remains to be done opens up before us in an almost endless vista. In a faraway promised land, we behold a perfect state wherein the heart and hand and intelligence of woman contribute their full share, end quote. In closing, I have something special today that I would like to read and do. It's a formal declaration issued by Governor Cox and myself to celebrate International Women's Day, and especially the powerful heritage of Utah women. So I'm going to go ahead and read this declaration, and then I'm going to sign it, and I'll show it to you guys. Here it is. Declaration. Whereas March 8th is celebrated as International Women's Day throughout the world, and the month of March is recognized as Women's History Month. Whereas the history of women in Utah is marked with accomplishments and events significant to both the history of Utah and the United States. Whereas the Utah Territorial Legislature gave women the right to vote in 1870 and Sarah Young in Salt Lake City was the first woman in the history of the United States to cast a vote under an equal suffrage law. Whereas the legacy of leadership of Utah women continues to this day, including and importantly, in high-ranking positions throughout the state, whereas women are leading contributors to Utah's prominence on the economic and world stage, whereas Utah women own over 89,000 businesses, they are innovators and employ people in every industry sector across the state, whereas Utah women comprise nearly 45% of the state's workforce, control a majority of the consumer purchasing power in the state, control more than 1/3 of small business purchasing decisions, employ nearly 80,000 Utahns, contribute over $15 billion to the economy annually, and make invaluable impacts toward the creation and flourishing of strong families and communities through unpaid labor, including childcare, elder care, housework, and countless other forms of work. Whereas the state of Utah acknowledges the ongoing work to equip women with enhanced access to opportunities for economic and other advancements, including improved access to affordable and flexible childcare resources, wages and income in better alignment with their contributions as participants and leaders in Utah's workforce, and a concerted response to the COVID-19 pandemic's disproportionate impact upon the economic opportunities and workforce participation of women. Whereas the 2021 theme for International Women's Day is choose to challenge, expressing a choice to accept challenges and call out inequity. Whereas the people of Utah choose to renew the commitment to work collaboratively to remove barriers in our economic and political systems and to work to eliminate pay disparities between men and women. Whereas the people of Utah choose to take on the challenging and vital work of creating a state that further empowers women to build upon the tradition of involvement and contribution. And whereas this recognition of the contributions of women and the ongoing work to eliminate barriers to opportunity transcends partisan, ideological, or geographical boundaries and joins the voices throughout the nation and world as part of International Women's Day that celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. Now, therefore, Spencer J. Cox, Governor of the great state of Utah, and I, Deidre M. Henderson, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Utah, do hereby declare March 8th, 2021 as Women's Day in Utah. I'm going to go ahead and sign this. And it is official. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to participate today. And once again, thank you for your valuable contributions to empowering and uplifting and elevating women in Utah.
Thank you so very much, Lieutenant Governor. We are thrilled, and all of you really should be, for what we've been able to accomplish together, but also to be celebrated today as women in our great state. Thank you so very much. We're excited about this. All right. What we want to do now is to show a video to you of International Women's Day across the country and across the world. Thank you so much. I hope that was helpful to see some of the things that are going on in our country and in the world. So it's exciting. All right, so the next thing I want to do is share with you about a project that the Women's Business Center of Utah has been working on. And we will be hosting and launching a statewide directory of women-owned businesses, because it's important to know where they are and who they are so we can support them. As Lieutenant Governor Henderson had mentioned, women have been impacted more by the pandemic than anyone else. And so we want to make sure that you're supported, that we will know about you, and that we also recommend those who are seeking to do contract work with women-owned businesses. I'd like to turn some time over to Eve, our digital media coordinator, to show you what this is, where it is, and how to sign up.
Hi, okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Michelle, great. Perfect. Okay, so this is what our business directory is gonna look like. This picture is Bridget from Blow Dry Bar. And this is 230 businesses so far that have signed up for our women-owned business directory. You can see what the listings will look like. And then we have some search features. So you can search by keyword. You can also search by category and by county. So if I were searching for construction firms owned by women in Salt Lake County, I would come up with 8 construction firms owned by women in Salt Lake County. So we're really excited to use this for you as businesses to get listed and for you looking to work with women-owned businesses. So if you are a new client to the Women's Business Center of Utah, you can sign up for the directory by signing up to use our services. So if you go to wbcutah.org and click on sign up on the top corner, you'll fill out all your information about your business, and under step 2, you will answer this question. Do you want to be listed on our public women-owned business directory? And you'll click yes. As long as you do this and you are currently in business, we will have you listed on the directory. Now, if you're a returning client of the Women's Business Center of Utah, instead of sign up, you'll go to log in. You'll log into your member account. It'll look something like this. And then I'm gonna direct you how to answer the same question. If you go to company information, and all of this information exists on our website, under additional information, we've got that same question. Do you want to be listed on our public women-owned business directory? You click on yes, and then you just go to the bottom and click save changes. Again, as long as you are in business and you answer that question, you will get listed on the directory. Once you have a profile, whether you've just signed up or whether you already have a login, around here, you can add all these different things. You can add your logos and photos, really make your listing stand out. This is all free. And this is an example of a listing that really has everything together. So we've got a beautiful logo, we've got some images, we have about us, a link to their website, and LinkedIn, Facebook. And yeah, so that is what the directory will look like. And we hope that you'll all join. I'll put a couple links in the chat so you can take a look. All the instructions are listed. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Eve. Again, this is a free listing for all women business owners to list their women-owned business. As you heard in the declaration, there are over 89,000 women-owned businesses in our state. And so we're going to be doing and rolling out a large marketing campaign that you will see, and hope to have thousands of you on our women-owned business directory soon. It's all to help you grow your business with more opportunities. Well, next we're excited to show you a few things that we want to do and give away. So we have a basket, which we're gonna have here, and we'll show you a picture here in a moment. And we're going to do a drawing. So we want to thank those who donated to this self-care basket, and we're going to mention Kendra Scott as well. So let me show you what this basket has in it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, one moment, and we'll have it up here for you. There we go. All right, this giveaway is a thank you to the person. Well, of course, we all want to thank all of you for participating, and one of you is the lucky winner. So this basket is a thank you to you, and it includes something from Kendra Scott. You'll notice that is a jewelry company that's at City Creek Center. Buzz Coffee Food Truck, which is, these are all women-owned products and services, by the way. Hans Kombucha, who's listed on our directory, Oleo Skincare, and Coco Jies, which we're thrilled about. So I'm going to turn the time over to Lisa and Michelle to show us who the winner is.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get us a winner. I will have Michelle check for me and see if you're in attendance. We want somebody that is actually here today to win the basket. So just a sec. Okay, here we go.
You are the winner of this package. So if you'll go ahead and make sure that you follow up with us, we'd love to make sure you get this basket. Jennifer Andelin, if you're able to show on the screen or at least your voice, let us know where you are, where you're joining the Zoom from.
Give me 1 second to give her the access to share her screen.
Sounds good. That was a fun game, right? You should all use that for your future Zooms. Jennifer, are you able to speak? I see her on there. Well, congratulations, Jennifer. You are our winner for today. Thank you so much. All right, congratulations. All right, so the next thing we want to do is just share really briefly about an opportunity that Kendra Scott has made available to us, just so you know. From March 8th and 9th, which is today through to tomorrow, Kendra Scott, if you don't know about their organization, they're really wonderful about supporting nonprofits. And so we just want to make sure that you know that Kendra Scott is doing a give back to the Women's Business Center of Utah. And if you shop there today or tomorrow and mention the Women's Business Center of Utah, you get 20% off of your purchase, and that will be donated back to us. So we thought at least you should know about it. So thank you so much. That was a really fun thing to do. All right, next I'm going to turn some time over to Effie Neophytos. She is our Kiva Capital Access Manager. I mentioned before that it's critical that women have access to money to be able to either grow or start their business. I want to turn the time over to Effie to share with you about one opportunity the Women's Business Center of Utah is ensuring that women have access to money.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Effie Neophytos, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Kiva and what we do, which I believe will be the most interesting to you. What does Kiva do? They loan to business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, what is Kiva? We are a nonprofit organization founded in 2005, based in San Francisco, but have staff and partners all around the world. And what do? We work to enable everyday people to lend small contributions towards a larger goal. In other words, crowdfunding. And that is something we helped pioneer when we were founded 15 years ago. Michelle, can we switch the screen? Thank you. Since our beginning, we have grown to enable 2 billion lenders worldwide to lend a combined amount of $1.5 billion in a total of 77 countries all around the world, something we're really proud of. And a little more info on our impact globally. Globally to date, we have nearly 500 volunteers across the world, and there's nearly 7 seconds between each Kiva loan made daily, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about our Kiva US program today, and more about our US impact. Kiva US is a newer program compared to the international, as we were founded in 2011. In that time, we've been able to lend more than $40 million to over 6,500 borrowers across the US and growing. We're so excited and hope to grow quickly. Now, a little bit about the philosophy that guides Kiva and the organizations like the Women's Business Center who partner with Kiva. We believe that dreams are universal, but opportunities are not. And what does that mean? That means as an organization, we try to envision a financial inclusive world where all people hold the power to improve their lives. So all products and services Kiva creates and deploys with our partners, including our crowdfunding loan, are built to try and solve that problem and create opportunity more universal. In the US, we like to refer to it as the missing micro. It seems like the traditional lenders prefer to make larger loans to small business owners who first have an established credit score, maybe are able to put up collateral, and most times they are able to provide audited business financial. The reason they do this is because if they accept a high-risk loan, they tend to have a lower return. It is also expensive to make smaller loans as it of itself. Even if it is not as risky, it is still too costly for the organizations to make the smaller loans. The thing is, not all early stages small business owners and entrepreneurs have the requirements the traditional lenders request, such as people with lower credit scores, immigrants, refugees, and many more. Since they do not have the requirements the traditional lender asks for, they tend to lean towards the fewer options that they have, such as high interest credit cards, online lenders, and payday loans. And we all know that that can be very problematic. Okay, Michelle, we're over the next. And I think I spoke over this one as well. Give some more information about the micro lending, the missing micro, and then we can move on. Yes, perfect. So that is where the Kiva US product fits in. Our loans start from $1,000 to $15,000, and our interest rate is 0%. So if you get a loan for $5,000, the only thing you will ever have to pay back is $5,000. And the loan terms are between 1 to 3 years, depending on the loan size. They do not require high credit scores, do not require collateral, and they don't ask for audited business financial statements. We can move to the next one. And now we're going to talk about how we do kind of a review on the application and what is different from the traditional lenders. The reason we do this is because we are focused on serving that missing micro. Those people for a number of different reasons, whether it is because they are a single income family, they are someone who does not have citizenship status, or maybe you are an early stage entrepreneur that does not have the community that can help bootstrap the early stages. We know that there are often a number of reasons, and even a combination of reasons, why someone is not able to get a loan at that phase. And we want to make it more possible, not only for them to get a loan from us, but also to use that opportunity to grow their business and grow the capital ladder. And this is an example of the capital ladder. There are other lenders across the United States that try to lend to small businesses specifically, but you can see comparing, we're still on the last one. You can see comparing to the Kiva average loan size to their loan size, even when trying to serve that missing micro, depending on where they are, they still struggle. As so, what I was talking about, the capital ladder, we are the first step on that capital ladder. Now we can move on to the next slide. That is why organizations like the Women's Business Center partner to serve their community, because we know there are a lot of awesome city-led initiatives, local community development centers, and financial institutions that are really eager to support small business owners, but they are not able to lend at the level that Kiva is lending at. Really, that is the first step. So what we're trying to do is build that bridge in that gap. If you can get over that step, then can you move to the other phases as a business owner and grow? So the way we can do that, we can go to the next slide. The way we do that is we connect with different, we connect to different organizations to kind of create this ecosystem to support small business owners. Kiva is doing the lending and the tech, and we have community organizations like the Women's Business Center that are stepping in to source the loan in the community and make sure all entrepreneurs know about the opportunity. Solo loan program. the details, the meat, and what you guys have been waiting for. The eligibility and what we expect on our applicants. First, they must be 18 years of age, and the loan must be for business purposes. The loan cannot be for personal use, nor for education. They are for small business owners only. It must be based in the United States, and we do not lend to multi-level marketing or anything that is pure financial investing. You cannot be currently in foreclosure or bankruptcy, and you must be willing to demonstrate your social capacity. We're going to talk a little more about that, but what it basically means is that we get the borrower involved in their fundraising process. I will put in a link in the chat for further eligibility criteria that is on our website as well. So what does the process look like? The borrower submits the application, and depending on how much you have prepared ahead of time, the application is pretty short, probably between 30. You can fill it out. We're asking things not just what is your business model, and what you're using for the loan, but we also are asking questions because we are a crowdfunding site, and we ask to give us a photo of you and your business. Tell us your story. How did you start the business, and why did you start? The lenders are looking for impact. They are not looking to make money. What type of impact will a loan have on your business and community? These things are going to turn into your crowdfunding public profile on Kiva. We do ask for business proof if you can provide it, but it is not required, even though it will help with the loan amount that you are approved of. And then we go into the review process. Depending on the time of the year and a couple different factors, we try to get in through as quick as possible, but does range between a week and 3 weeks. The Kiva team will be looking at the application and trying to make sure we're getting through all the information you have given us. Then we'll be able to tell you what loan amount you have been approved for, and we'll launch you to private fundraising. Private fundraising is the first step in the process. What we are saying is we're asking you to invite some of your friends, family, and community to lend to your campaign. The amount of people you will need to bring to your private funding campaign varies depending on your loan size. It can be as little as 5 people or as much as 40 people, depending on your loan size. The key here is the goal that you have to meet to get out of private fundraising is to get into public fundraising is actually based on the number of people, not the dollar amount. The minimum lending amount is only $25. We want to know the number of people. We do not want to penalize the communities who do not have the monies to be lent. You have 15 days in private fundraising to reach your goal. If you do not reach that goal, you will not be funded for the loan. That is why it is very important that you practice and use your social capacity. Tell the world, shout it through the rooftops, what you are wanting to tell. To do, tell everyone you know. Once you have reached your goal in private fundraising, you will be moved to public fundraising. Public fundraising is where your profile is presented to the worldwide community of Kiva lenders who are wanting to help small business owners with impact. They are wanting to see impact. They are not looking to make money. The more engaged you are on your profile, the higher the chance you have of your Kiva loan being successful. You have 30 days to reach your goal in public fundraising. If you do not reach the goal amount requested, you will not receive any of the loan. Since Kiva is all about impact, we understand that you need all the money requested to make that possible and defeats the purpose of the loan if you're not able to purchase what you needed for the business. That is why when you are requesting the amount, make sure you only ask for the exact amount of what you will need for giving yourself a better chance of success during the fundraising campaign. We can go to the next one. So remember, this loan is all about you. The lenders want to know you, where you are from, what have you done to build the skills you have to grow and operate your business? How did you begin? What did you do? What your business is, and who are your clientele? What will you use the loan for, and what type of impact that you will have on your business? What type of impact will the funds have on your business and your community? And without further ado, I would love to present Kristen, who was our first borrower to successfully get funded in 2021. Kristen is the owner of Backyard Urban Garden Farms with her husband. Kristen's going to talk to us for a few minutes about what she does, what her business is, and her experience through the Kiva loan process. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Kristen, are you ready to go? I'm not seeing her in my screen. Hannah, would she be on your control in the rooms that you have?
Yes, hang on.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Well, the platform's yours. Please tell us everything about your experience.
Okay, is there a way for me to turn my video on? Or I don't have to, I can just talk, that's fine.
We would
But
love to see you.
Okay, I don't see a space for me to do it on my end.
That's higher than my pay grade. Anybody can guide her?
Just go ahead and start speaking.
Okay, so thanks so much for having me, and I wanted to thank Effie too for her help going through this whole process with the Kiva loan. I was really nervous when we first applied, especially with the reality of, you know, if you don't meet these certain benchmarks, that maybe you won't be fully funded if you don't get the 25 people we needed to from our community lenders to first lend to us. And then if we didn't raise the full amount, that we wouldn't receive anything. So I was a little nervous about doing it, but Effie's been really supportive, and the Kiva team was really great to communicate with. And I feel really grateful. We were funded $10,000 with 0% interest for three years. We have to pay it back, and we also have a 6-month grace period. So we won't be beginning to pay back our loan until August. So our business is really small. We're a small farm in Salt Lake City, and I'm a co-owner and the okay, we're still here. Sorry, I thought I left. And this farm has been around for 11 years now, and it was actually started by a woman about 10 years ago who was just farming all over the city and turned it into a business. And then she ended up selling it to some friends of hers who ran it for another 5 years. And then my partner and I bought the business just a couple of years ago. This will be our 3rd season running the farm. And we kind of came into it with access to some land and some customers and a lot of experience in farming, but not a ton of other infrastructure or other resources. So we've sort of been bootstrapping things together as we've gone, and just been trying to figure it out. And it's been a lot of fun, but it's also been really challenging, especially with how difficult it can be as a really small business that doesn't have a ton of paperwork to show for itself to access capital funding, especially at an affordable interest rate, for a business that can be really hard to describe on paper, I would say. And it's something that we're working on and have slowly begun to build a much more resilient business plan and records and a profile that shows all of our expenses and how we're earning money and things like that. But Kiva's been a great option for us because we really wanted to just make our own quality of life a lot better, and then also invest in some things on the farm that are just going to help us tremendously, that we just don't have the capital for in a business that has pretty low profit margins growing vegetables. So our model is that we grow in backyards that are empty spaces, and we trade food for the land that we use. And then all of the produce that we grow, we sell through a community supported agriculture program, which is basically selling shares of produce for our entire growing season to whoever signs up to buy them. So when we applied for the Kiva loan, the process was, like, as Effie said, it doesn't take a long time, but we were pretty thoughtful about how we did it because we wanted to be really clear about what we needed the money for and who we are and what our business is and how the loan was going to impact us. So basically, they ask you to talk about your personal story. And so for us, that was speaking about, my background in farming and how I grew up farming with my family. And then I wanted to really show that I felt qualified to be in the field that I am. So I spoke about in our application about the other farms I've worked at and the experience I've gained doing that. And then we also spoke about why I love our business and why I love farming and how I felt that it was impacting our community and neighborhood in a really positive way. Then they ask you to talk about your business story. So we spoke about our background with the business and how, you know, we were the third owners coming into it and there hadn't been a lot of infrastructure sort of built up over those 10 years. So it was a lot of bootstrapping things together, being in backyards, using tarps to keep the sun off of the vegetables, using really small spaces to refrigerate things, and just needing some more space and some more capacity to grow this business to the point where we felt like we could actually support ourselves and our family doing this. So we spoke about just the model, and I thought it was important to highlight anything that was unique or interesting about our small business, and how it is so small scale and how it impacts our immediate community and the neighborhood where we live and the neighborhood where we farm. And then I also thought it was important when we spoke about the business story to talk about how we actually make money, and that's through selling those farm shares or those farm boxes of vegetables to about 90 families a week throughout the growing season, because I wanted people to know that, yeah, even though we are a really small farm and a small business, we are making money and we do have income, we are profitable, and we do have the capacity to pay back this loan. And then they ask you to describe the loan use description. And I think for me, that was not the most challenging part because it's pretty straightforward. This is what we need the money for, and this is how it's going to impact our business. But we tried to be really clear and succinct about what we needed the money for. And for us, we really wanted to build a plant nursery, a high tunnel, because currently we start all of our plants from seed and we do them in our house, and there's not a lot of space and it's incredibly inefficient. We spend hours a day moving them in and out of the house, you know, back in on cold days, back out on warm days. And we really wanted an outdoor space where we could grow all of these plants. And then eventually we would like to grow plants to sell as well, vegetable starts for people's home gardens. So that was really important to us and part of why we wanted the loan. The other reason we wanted the loan is because we want to expand our farm and make it bigger. And we have access to a new plot with a 5-year lease. And we needed money to help us put the infrastructure in to be able to farm there. So putting in a whole new water system, irrigation, buying all of the drip irrigation supplies that we need, which can really add up really quickly. And then bringing in a lot of new soil amendments and seeds to cover crop and prepare that land for pretty intensive vegetable growing. And then the third reason we asked for the loan, and we detailed all of this in our application, was that we wanted to plant beneficial hedgerows in each of our garden spaces because our garden spaces are spread out over our entire neighborhood. And we've really struggled with some pest issues in the past that have really cut into our profitability. And so having done some research with some other folks who are working on different ways to sustainably monitor and then also deplete or take down the pest populations, we knew that planting beneficial plants to bring in beneficial insects and birds and would help us control those pests and help us become more profitable. So those were the 3 big reasons that we applied for the loan, and they're really important to us, but because the profit margins are so low in this really small business, we didn't feel like we had the capacity and the money to really invest in those things. So Kiva is a huge game changer, and I'm so excited that we're actually able to start working on these projects. We've already built the high tunnel, the nursery back behind our house, and we're going to be moving our starts out there this spring already. So it's already begun to change our lives in a really big way. We've already started buying seeds for those beneficial hedgerows, and water systems are going in over at our new plot. So it just feels really exciting to actually see these things that we were just dreaming about actually becoming a reality. And the other thing I wanted to just mention was that I was really a little nervous about approaching the community through the private funding phase. I don't know why. I'm not someone who likes to ask for money, but I think the really cool thing about Kiva is that you're not asking for a handout. It's a loan, and you're just asking people that you know to kind of come in behind you and say, yeah, these people are hard workers. I believe in what they're doing, and I believe in their small business, and I'm willing to donate as little as not even donate, but lend $25 to help them bring this loan to the public side of the funding phase. And I was just so astounded by our community's response. And I thought it would be really hard, and it really wasn't, because they would tell their friends or other family members who cared about agriculture about what we were doing, or were small business owners themselves. And then they would tell their friends, and it just happened before I even knew it. So I think even if I didn't think that we had that big of a community, and it just blew my mind, like how quickly that phase of our funding happened. So I think even if you're nervous about that, don't be, because the word of mouth aspect of reaching out to people that you already know who care about your business will spread to people that you don't even know. We ended up having people support us that I've never even met. And that was just in the initial funding phase, which was really incredible. And then other people from the farming community here, I know that they don't make a lot of money, but we're all here to support each other. So I knew that even if reaching out to our immediate friends and family didn't work, that we could reach out to other farmers, because they knew the struggles, and we're friends and they care about us in our community. And I knew that they would lend us $25 if we got in a pinch to help us get this loan rolling. So that was a really cool part of me. And I think it's a really interesting and beneficial part of the Kiva loan, because it kind of gives you some confidence going into the public funding phase of like, okay, yeah, there are people out there who care about this and want to lend money. So that was really great. And then the Women's Business Center, I also wanted to thank them and Effie for just helping us. You know, they review our application once we turned it in before Kiva saw it. And so there's a huge opportunity there for Effie and whoever else is working on these things to help you work on your application, or if you're missing something that they think is really helpful, to help you figure it out and submit an application that's really high quality and has a better chance of being publicly funded on the actual Kiva site when it goes live. So I think that's an amazing resource to have here, and I'm really grateful for it. And so excited to start this season out with these new resources and infrastructure that we didn't have before. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for talking about everything and talking about your vulnerabilities and what you needed to do to reach out, because that is a major part, but it builds the confidence that's needed, most definitely. Thank you again. And I will send it over to Anne-Marie, and she's taking over. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I love Kiva, and we brought it on just over a year ago. And if there's anything you're going to remember from this presentation, besides Kristen, is that it's 0% interest, no fees. You know what I mean? And if you're not a business owner, maybe you could lend $25 to a woman business owner in Utah. So we're happy to do that. The link got put inside of the chat, so just look for it there. We're going to take a short break, a 5-minute break. And what I'd like for you to do before you head to your break or whatever you need to do is drop in the chat your name, whether it's just your first name or your last name, and where you are zooming in from. I'd love to see that. So everyone drop in your name and where you're zooming in from, and we'll get back together in 5 minutes at 11:05. We'll see you all soon. especially our clients and each other. We all we get to see it within like the theme and we got
Every day is so wonderful. Suddenly, it's hard to breathe. Now and then, I get insecure. My pain, I'm so ashamed. I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down. I am beautiful in every single way. It's what
Welcome back, ladies. We're excited to continue on some of the best parts of our program right now. Hold on just one moment. Okay. I hope that this was helpful for you. Something that I just love about Kiva is it changes lives and makes opportunity at your fingertips. So we're happy to host it. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Hannah Hutt with World Trade Center Utah for our fabulous panel. I'm excited for this. And go ahead, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, and thank you so much to our panelists who are joining us here today. We have our panelists, Patricia Jones, Rochelle Morris, and Heidi Kuhn here with us. And I'm just gonna go over a brief bio for them really quickly so you guys can get to know them. Patricia Jones is the CEO of the Women's Leadership Institution. It's an organization here that elevates the stature of female leadership in the state of Utah. Before this role, she was the co-founder and former president of Dan Jones and Associates for 35 years, while also serving on several community and company boards. Senator Jones served in the Utah legislature for 14 years and held leadership positions for 12 of those years. As you can see from this impressive resume, she prefers to move rather than to sit, and her least favorite thing to do is to wait in long lines. Rochelle Morris is the vice president for JP Morgan's private bank in Salt Lake City. She's responsible for overseeing private client relationships across the state of Utah and advises on a wide range of wealth planning matters, including asset allocation, investments, credit, fiduciary services, and philanthropy. Prior to her joining JP Morgan, Rochelle was a vice president at Goldman Sachs in its private wealth management division, advising and serving some of the wealthiest families in Texas. She volunteers her time and energy to supporting Peace House, a center for victims of domestic violence, and is also a member of the Women's Giving Fund with the Park City Community Foundation. Heidi Kuhn is the founder and CEO of Roots of Peace, a humanitarian nonprofit organization founded with a vision to transform minds to vines. She asked me to share this brief video introducing herself and her work, so I will be sharing that really quickly. And that will give a really great introduction for who she is. Hang on one second. Oh my goodness.
The last months of her life, my mother campaigned to draw attention to the horrific and indiscriminate impact of landmines.
Britain's Prince Harry is paying tribute to his late mother, Princess Diana, by urging people to rid the world of landmines by 2025. Prince Harry and his brother, William, were just young teens when their mother was tragically killed in a car accident in 1997. Prince Harry is now 32 and eager to carry on his mother's mission with the help of demining organizations, including the Halo Trust and MAG, the Mines Advisory Group.
My mother had been shocked and appalled by the impact that landmines were having on incredibly vulnerable people, and on children in particular. She didn't understand why more people were not willing to address the cause of so much suffering.
A mother of 4 young children in San Rafael was so profoundly moved by Diana's life that she was willing to address the suffering from landmines. Heidi Kuhn founded her charity Roots of Peace 20 years ago in San Rafael with her husband Gary. Her dream: turn mines to vines, replacing landmines with grapevines or other food crops. They told me recently they were invited to Kensington Palace this year to hear the prince's call to action.
It was very emotional for him. You could really see that in his eyes and his demeanor, and it was very heartfelt.
Heidi and Gary were so inspired by Princess Diana, they traveled to the same landmine-filled province she walked in Angola. Their work with the Halo Trust saved people and animals. They applied lessons they learned through their Roots of Peace model in Afghanistan. First, remove the landmines, and then help the farmers improve their crop yields for food and for export. 14 years later, it's having a stunning effect on the economy's gross domestic product.
We've pushed up the GDP of the country. Our projects impact the GDP, 2 or 3%. At the farm level, it's, people changing their lives because now they have enough money for education and health. They don't need handouts.
Roots of Peace has worked in more than half a dozen countries removing landmines and restoring farmland. They are ready for Prince Harry's challenge in his mother's memory.
I think she'd be proud of her son and what he's doing, because this was one of her top causes.
We can take the words of her son and in the next 8 years follow up on that call to action and eradicate all landmines by 2025. It would be a miracle.
Cheryl Jennings, ABC 7 News.
Move it out because a person can actually lift this out.
Wonderful. So as you can see, these panelists have just incredible wealth of knowledge. And I want to go ahead and start with a question to each of the panelists, give them just a quick minute to share. As you guys have paved the way and broken the glass ceiling in different ways, what has been your favorite experience as you've progressed throughout your careers? And I'll turn to you first, Rochelle.
Well, thank you, first of all, for having us here. And, I've met Pat over Zoom over the course of this pandemic, and I've not yet met Heidi, but I love this video and love your leadership. And so thinking about just ways in which, I guess I have blazed a trail thus far in my career. I'm the first woman on my mom's side of the family to get a college degree. And, I think my mom, she made sure that I had access to good education growing up. We lived in a good school system in Houston, which, and I appreciated how hard she worked to get my siblings and me into a good school system, which then provided opportunity. And so, I think growing up in a way where I would sell gum out of my backpack in middle school and high school to pay for my lunches, and just always had this ability of like, okay, what's the job to be done, rather than what is my specific job. And I think given just my upbringing and being in a large family, and then relating that to my career, I've always had this attitude of what's the job to be done instead of what is my specific job. And so, I graduated from Brigham Young University. I studied information systems. I was supposed to have a career in tech, given that, field of study that I focused on at BYU. And I got recruited by Goldman Sachs for a tech job. And it did not take long for me to realize in the firm that I actually wanted to do something different than tech. And so rather than focusing, well, this is my specific job, I got my job done, that if you were to Google the job requirements of my analyst role at Goldman, I took care of the meat and potatoes of the job. And then I explored other areas of the firm and networked and got to know people and figured out ways to make their lives easier from my seat. And then because of that, I was able to network my way into, some pretty lucrative opportunities over the past 15 years. And so I, rather than sharing just one experience, it's more just the attitude of rather than it trying to just be good at the siloed responsibilities of any specific job description. Instead, just looking around, what are problems to be solved, and then help solve those problems and ask people questions and learn about what they do and what they like to do and what they don't like to do. And then start taking care of some of the things that they don't like to do. And it turns out you build some goodwill and you get more opportunities. And so I've had that relayed, I've had that experience over and over again. And it wasn't necessarily one defining moment in my career, but more of just approaching the year in, year out experiences of my career with that attitude.
That's great. Thanks. And Patricia, same question to you. What have been your favorite experiences?
First of all, it's just an honor to be on the panel with you and Heidi. I love that video. You and Gary should be commended for the great work you're doing. Thank you for doing that. I also admired Princess Diana, and isn't that so timely right now that you would talk about Harry? So thank you for that work, carrying that on. And Rochelle, the great work you are doing at JP Morgan, one of our new Elevate Her Challenge organizations, and you guys walk the talk. Thank you. It is really difficult to choose one experience. I think it's impossible to do that. I think working as the CEO of the Women's Leadership Institute has been the culmination of my business background and my political background. And, of course, I'm always encouraging women to run for political office. And one of our trainings is the Political Development Series. It's bipartisan, and we love training women and helping them understand the value of gender diversity in politics. It's so important. But as I look back, I think one experience does emerge, and that is a couple of years ago, my granddaughter ran for president of her senior class in high school. And she spoke at commencement. And we were at, in the big arena. And of course, she was up on the Jumbotron, and she did a beautiful job in her speech. And afterward, I said, Jenna, I'm so proud of you. And she said to me, Grandma, you know why I did it. And I thought back, I had 5 political campaigns. I would knock on doors for like all summer, and she would help me. She would go with me. And she was my magic person that went along with me. And I didn't realize at the time that I was a role model for her. And it took that comment from her. It never even dawned on me, but it made me think how important it is that we are role models for our young women and other women in our lives, that the things that we can do really do matter, and that people watch us. A lot of times we don't realize it, but to be good role models for people.
That's great. Thank you. And Heidi, onto you. What have been some of your favorite experiences?
Well, Hannah and Miles, I'm just so deeply honored to be invited as a Californian on this distinguished panel for Utah, but I must share a bit of my Utah roots. In 1977, way back when dinosaurs ruled the earth, I met my husband skiing in Utah and snowbird, and we were both going to UC Berkeley, pursuing an education, and I wanted an education for peace. And I majored in political economics of industrial societies. And this past Valentine's Day, we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. So thank you to Utah for the fertile grounds for peace and for beautiful children and for grandchildren that, Patricia, like you, I hope they will learn from our footsteps and carry on even further as young boys and girls. I just would like to say the significance of my footsteps. I'm a 5th generation Californian. My great-great-grandfather came here in 1850 50s, and that taught us about the respect for the land and its people. And that carried forth with me for generations. Again, after graduating from Berkeley, my husband worked for IBM, stands for I've been moved. We were transferred to Alaska, and it was the melting of the ice curtain between US-Soviet relations. So with a 1, 3, and 5-year-old, I got a little day job. I was weather anchor on the 6 o'clock news, and the next week, the Exxon Valdez hit Bly Reef. I started my own television news company, NewsLink International, and ended up covering in Vladivostok, Sakhalin, Khabarovsk, and really seeking peaceful solutions. I was diagnosed with cancer the next year, and anybody who's had cancer knows that stops you in your tracks. And many years later, long story, I gave birth after surviving cancer to my 4th child. I named him Christian, just with gratitude for the gift of life. And I was holding that little boy in my arms when I watched Princess Diana walk through the minefields. And it just hit me like an epiphany. Cancer is a landmine. None of us know whenever we're going to step on it. And landmines are a cancer to the earth, 60 million landmines in 60 countries. So I set out on a quest literally to turn mines to vines. And I can tell you, people in Marin County, California said, this poor woman, she thinks she's going to wage world peace around the world, be kind to her. But you have to be persistent, and you got to, if you have a vision in your heart, you have to listen to it. And I today, again, so deeply honored, full circle, to be here on the Proclamation of Women of Utah. And to be with all of you. And the most defining moment I think I have in my memory, this year marks the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the United States. And this is a spring planting season like never before. And we need to turn swords into plowshares, guns into shovels in the soils of Afghanistan like never before. I was so delighted to see in the chat room, our gender specialist Fazia is on the line from, I'm going to get tears in my eyes, from Afghanistan. And it's, no, Fazia, it's 12:30 at night, but you in your 20s are leading the women of Afghanistan, the women traders, the farmers. So if I have seen further than others, it's only because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And those giants are you, Fazia, and the countless of women in Afghanistan today on International Women's Day who are literally taking risks for peace. Many of you seen the New York Times and Washington Post today. We are dreaming of peace, and together we will turn those dreams into reality. My happiest moment was being in the fields of the Shamali Plains located north of Kabul. Diane Disney Miller, they never told me who her father was, wrote me a big check for $200,000 and said, go turn your minds to vines. And that opened up the doors north of Kabul to remove the landmines laid by the Taliban and, years of war. And Roots of Peace went back there and trained the farmers to go trellis vines. I was there in 2018 with the Minister of Agriculture, Durrani. We went into those fields that were formerly mined, and beautiful photos of picking these fresh grapes. The next day on 9/11, I had the honor and privilege of bringing my traders from Afghanistan to the new markets in India. Ambassador John Bass was in the front of the plane. We were in the back, and it was wheels up. And those dried fruits and fresh grapes and raisins, of course, never fermented with due respect to the Muslim country, was airborne. And I think of that Flight 93 where my neighbor died 2 months pregnant with her first child. And I thought of Lauren Grancolis, and I thought, there are angels, and we are going the distance and planting the roots of peace on earth. And I just thank the incredible women. So honored to be in your presence, Patricia and Rochelle. And from the heart of California, let us be those bipartisan women and live the American ethics that were instilled in my heart. Lift up our great country as it is with their generosity and true American spirit.
Beautiful. Well said. Thank you guys so much. And another question for the three of you guys. It's obviously so important to all three of you to give back to the communities that you serve. All of you have served on impressive boards and do some volunteer work. I want to know, Patricia, I'll start with you. Why is it important to you to give back, and how do you balance your plate so that you can have the time to do that?
This is a question I think a lot of people have on how we do it all, as they say. I really don't think there's any such thing as balance. It's a matter of prioritizing the same 24 hours each day that we all have, and setting our priorities, what's most important to us. We do have different seasons, different hours of the day. My availability, even though I have a very full life, my family are pretty much grown, although this has been an interesting year. But I think if we can remove the guilt, that is so important, that we know that we cannot do everything, but that I think it's also important to be intentional about what we plan to do, to plan ahead and evaluate what things bring value to us and to others, and to know what we want to do, and have it in our back pocket for when we do have a little bit more time to share it with others. We all give back in different ways. I think it's important to reflect on the big and small ways that each one of us does to help others. And there's more done than we sometimes think. I think some people feel like, well, I'll never be famous. I'm not well known. I don't do much, go down the list. But really, you don't need to be any of those things. It's the collective work that all women do, men too, but we're talking about women today, acts that are large and small that will lift our society, make the world a better place. Plus, I'm in a world where we talk about the value of gender diversity. And the biggest reason why women leave the workplace is not what we think. The reason that women tend to leave the workplace is because they don't feel valued. And we need to know that we matter, that the work we do matters. There's a lot of unpaid labor that women provide. And we need to value that and to value each other, but not to feel the guilt, but to be prepared to give in whatever way we can, but to acknowledge that in fact that is valuable.
Very well said. Thank you. And Heidi, how do you balance your plate, and why is it important to you to give back?
Well, I just have a golden rule, and it's always family first. And as a mother of 4 children, I think this past year has been just such a challenge in achieving that Italian word Valencia. And I reflect back to a year ago, just at the end of this month, when my son and his wife, who are both doctors on the front line of COVID-19, first, this was all emerging, and he is the critical care doctor at University of California at Davis in Sacramento. And they both contacted my husband and I and say, Mom, Dad, we can't take care of our children. It's too risky to come home after intubating patients. So we, in the middle of, balancing international charity, which is approaching 200 million under contract, we said, yes, we'll take those 2 dear grandchildren of ours, Layla, who's 3, and Jai, who's 6, and we'll make it work. And it is that delicate balance. And I think this past year we have dealt with a metaphorical landmine, and that's the invisible COVID-19 that has just blasted our lives. They've forced us to stay home and shelter in place. And I hope that there is always something good that can come out of the bad, the phoenix from the ashes, and that we emerge with empathy and understanding for families around the world who live in mine-affected countries. They cannot let their children play outside. You kick a soccer ball out of bounds, you lose a life or limb. And tethering their children to poles so that they wouldn't go out of bounds. When I first saw that in Croatia, I thought it was, what horrible parents, but you can't judge. And it's a balancing act. And I guess the biggest challenge I would have to conclude on that balance and thoughtfulness and really listening to your God, whatever that, respectfully happens to be, God, Allah, Buddha, but just turning your eyes up in those times of challenge. March 28th, 2014, again, approaching a very serious anniversary in front of us. I got that horrible call, and Roots of Peace was under attack by the Taliban. And if you Google our name, you'll find the only good news that happens is a terrorist attack. And I endured a 4.5-hour gun battle. And when that last young boy, Ali Akbar, blew himself up, I thought, yeah, this has just gotten too hard. I need to go back to California, back to my family. And my family said, we're with you, Mom. And here we are today, having, had the courage to go the distance. And Fazia, if you're hearing this, through the funding from USAID and other partners, we have taken Afghan agricultural exports from 250 million averaged for a decade annually from 2014 to $1.4 billion. And we're just getting started. This past week, we received another 30 million from the U.S. Department of State, INL, International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. And these farmers, without judgment, have families. They don't want them stepping on landmines, and they want the dignity to feed them. So we are in the hardest of areas. We're honored, we're grateful to our country, and together may we plant the roots of peace on earth now.
Great. And Rochelle, to you, how do you balance your plate? Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, I think balancing the plate is a work in progress always. And also just hearing little anecdotes from Heidi and Pat, it just makes me feel like we need a full hour fireside chat with each of them just to hear all of these stories and lessons learned throughout their careers. But so I'm actually zooming in from a little vacation in Hawaii. It's my first time to Hawaii, and I came out here with 4 close girlfriends from college, and we live in all different places around the country. Some of us are mothers, some of us aren't, and we have an ICU nurse in the group. We had a PhD professor of literature. We have a merchandising executive at Nike in Portland. And then another friend of mine is a stay-at-home mom now, but she was a marketing executive too before she decided to go home full time. And so 5 of us, we've known each other for at least 16 years, each of us. And we're around the same age. And we realized over the course of our 4 days together here in Maui that we like to vacation a little differently than each other. Like even on vacation, there's something that each of us wants to prioritize that helps us feel, the most satisfied on a vacation day versus the others. And we're all high achieving women who love each other and can be totally vulnerable and honest. And we learned over the course of the weekend what those priorities are. And I feel like that can be applied to this topic too, which is, work-life balance or work-life integration, or however you want to describe it, is going to be different for each of us. Like, for example, for me, I need to work out first thing in the morning while I'm on vacation and get really sweaty so that then I feel like I can relax the rest of the day. But until I get that workout, I'm a little restless until I feel like I've gotten my workout in. And with another friend, that's the last thing she wants to do, and another friend wants to transition quicker between activity. It was just funny. We had a postmortem yesterday and talked about it. So thinking about work-life balance, it's really, okay, what are the 2 or 3, what's the thing that I need to do every day to feel fulfilled in the different roles that I have in my life. And the same thing goes with volunteering and community service. I have learned that it's most important to figure out what you really care about in the community, because there's a million problems. There's a lot of organizations doing good work. For example, like I have personal connectivity to the Hale Center Theater and to Peace House out in Park City. So those are the nonprofit organizations that I spend a lot of time and energy with, that are just community-based, have nothing to do with JP Morgan Chase, but helps me feel like I'm lending my talents to the Utah community outside of my JP Morgan day-to-day responsibilities. For someone else, it might be something to do with the environment or animals, but whatever that personal passion is, then it's so much easier to prioritize serving that organization. And I mean, Heidi's living proof of having passion about something and then organizing around it and then dedicating your life and your career to it. And, I would love to of course, hear stories from Pat about serving in the state legislature and how she decided to pivot into politics for a period of her life. Because, to me, those are true examples of how to devote yourself to the community. But then, in Pat's example, she's not a lifelong legislator. Instead, she decided to create the Women's Leadership Institute here in Utah to train other women in the state to serve in our political institutions. So yeah, that's all I've got for now.
I love that. Thank you, Rochelle. And going back to you, you have an amazing career in finance and baking, and I think we all know that's a challenging career. How does company culture play a role and affect your ability to overcome challenges at work?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the main reasons why I actually switched banks along the way, which, I love Goldman Sachs. I spent 13 years with Goldman. I learned so much. I had great mentors, great opportunities. It was the training grounds for my career, and I would never change having that experience. But with that said, company culture does matter. And JP Morgan has more senior women in its leadership ranks. Half of the operating committee that reports directly into Jamie Dimon, our CEO, are women. And that then distills across the entire organization that it's just an easier place for women's voices to be heard, respected, appreciated, and for flexibility to be there. Like, for example, I'm working from Hawaii this week. Nobody at JP Morgan cares. Maybe on a previous team at Goldman, someone might have cared about that. And to me, it's all about finding the company where you feel like you're being stretched appropriately, given flexibility when you've earned the flexibility, and then have a collaborative atmosphere. And so, at the end of the day, my day-to-day responsibilities between JP Morgan and Goldman haven't changed that much. I'm usually working with clients who are community leaders in managing their personal balance sheets. And that hasn't changed so much, but who I'm working with inside the bank has changed a lot, and I love where I'm at now.
That's great. I love that. Pat, talking about the Elevate Her challenge that you mentioned briefly, I know that part of that includes establishing and enhancing mentorship programs. How have you found mentors, and what role have they played for you?
I get that question quite a bit. And I've spent a lot of time reflecting on that question. I would say since my husband passed away a couple of years ago, you kind of think about your life a little bit more and kind of reflect on things. And the fact is, I don't recall having any mentors until I ran for political office. I had good examples. I had people who influenced me growing up, but mentors are different. And then if you look at sponsors, they're even more important and more effective in elevating women. And so I like to just take a couple of minutes about the differences in those. Mentors can appear in any level. They provide emotional support, feedback, advice. Mentors help mentees learn to navigate corporate politics and focus on the mentee's personal and professional development. They serve as role models and encourage competence and self-worth in the mentee. But they don't necessarily need to be at your company or in your industry to be a mentor. They can come from anywhere. And so I think we can think of people, were they a mentor? Were they an influencer? Were they just an important example to me? But when you think about sponsors, a lot of the research shows that it's having a sponsor that really makes change. And sponsors are senior managers with influence. And so it's important for women to look for those. They make sure their people are considered for challenging assignments and promising opportunities. Sponsors protect their people from negative press and fight to get their people advanced. These would be like the guys, which is typical on a golf course, who are in a golf tournament, while typically the women are back holding down the fort at the office, where one of the senior managers would talk about maybe elevating a woman to one of the senior levels that they were talking about on the golf course. Unfortunately, women are about 54% less likely than men to have a sponsor. And so we need to look around for sponsors like this. Sponsors are people that watch out for you when you're not in the room, but they have influence on who makes the decisions in the organization. So it's important to understand the different levels of, so oftentimes we just call it mentorship. We need, as women, we need to be sponsors, mentors, influencers, and great examples for other women. It's, you hear too many examples where women have not been that. And we need to go out of our way to make sure women of all ages, all colors, are following, and they know that there's a place for them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Heidi, Roots of Peace is a tremendous worldwide effort. You've grown across the world. You've impacted over 1 million farmers and their families in over 8 countries. Tell me, what resources have you utilized to help you grow internationally?
Well, thank you for asking that question. And again, thank you to Patricia and Rochelle. I'm just so inspired by both of you. And, for those of us who are over 60, I don't think I ever had a sponsor. I had more landmines put in my way for good ideas. So we need to reach back and help that next generation. And Rochelle, good for you for calling it out that you're in Hawaii. You need to take more balance, Valencio, for each other and admit you need girlfriend time. I just really admire you, because you could have set up a background. It would look very professional. I would have guessed you were in, New York City, but Hawaii. And I was in Hawaii also last month. I had COVID-19. I was diagnosed on Friday, the 13th of November, and double pneumonia the next month. So I've spent a couple days in the hospital, and it was very healing to swim in those beautiful waters of Hawaii and come back renewed. Recreation and recreation to me are one and the same. But back to your very serious question, I could not have accomplished this without many people, many roots of peace. I call them my roots, and those financial roots are so desperately needed to turn ideas into reality. And again, I would like to give a shout out and a thank you, because we do not hear this enough in our society. But thank you to my U.S. government, to USDA, INL, UNDP, Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and again, most recently, the INL contract to go work in the belly of the beast, some of these areas in the world called Kandahar and Helmand and Fata, Nangarhar, and areas that we cannot forget. We can't just concentrate in those low-lying fruit areas outside of Kabul. We have to go the distance to give hope to the next generation. I think people make poor choices here in this country and around the world when they don't have hope, they don't have the financial resources to improve their lives. And I would also like to give a shout out to Jeff Skoll, the co-founder of eBay, who created the Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship. And in 2006, Jeff gave me $1 million and said, grow it. I grew it to 100 million. And my colleague who also received the Skoll Award was Kiva, the founders of Kiva. So Jeff, here's to you for some good investments on the return on the investment is peace and livelihoods. And the wonderful woman who spoke about agribusiness, that is exactly what we're trying to give through our Roots of Peace business model, the economics of peace to the very poor people around the world who have no access to capital. So much like microcredit lending with Roots of Peace, we are pioneering the economics of peace, the business of peace, and I think we need to focus on that. And then finally, I would just like to say about the financial resources, with Roots of Peace, every penny counts. And my daughter, Kylie, when she turned 13, and I was driving her to soccer practice and listening to her little girlfriend friends all talk about the latest new pair of designer jeans, I thought I need to take that young lady on a detour before she enters high school. And we went to the minefields of Croatia for her birthday on May 1st, 2000. And I'll tell you, half the mothers thought I was mommy dearest. She's taken her kid to a minefield. Yeah, we have to be extra nice to Kylie. Well, Kylie, when she turned 16, went out to lunch with me. I had an interview, and for some reason it was canceled. And the news anchor in San Francisco, #1 news anchor for past 30 years, felt sorry for me and said, "May I take you to lunch?" I said, "Well, yes, but I have my daughter with me. May she join us?" So it was 3 women. And, we talked about landmines because Cheryl Jennings, ABC 7 news anchor, had covered stories in Bosnia for CARE. And then Kylie and I talked about our trek 3 years earlier in the minefields of Croatia. And we thought, those mines are there and we feel passionate, but we're whistling in the wind in California and San Francisco to make people care, because people can hike the mountains, run the beaches, and we have the freedom. We don't have landmines in our country. Our children, we don't have to worry as mothers, their limbs or their eyes being blown off. And so we said at the table there, 2003, let's start a penny campaign. And that was our battle cry, 1 penny at a time. Well, Kylie, Cheryl, and her mom raised, really through Kylie's leadership, because she was the one going out on the front line of the high schools and junior highs and even the kindergartens who invited her. And she raised 50 million American pennies for peace to build schools for girls in Afghanistan. And again, Fawzia, one day when the world opens up from COVID and extreme terrorism that is accelerating this spring in Afghanistan, I will join you in Mir Bochakot, north of Kabul, to see where 600 children go to school. And we will then fly to Bamyan, where the first woman governor, Dr. Habibi Sarabi, greeted us. And we built a school in Bam Sarai. And again, hundreds of children, I'm told today, still are able to go to those schools. And it's a testament, I guess, to the simplicity of an American penny, the value that every single penny makes a difference. So from 1 penny to hundreds of millions of dollars that I've had to manage as a CEO, and you shout out from my office to my CEO, just hired her a woman, because I know she's going to work with me, Carol, to make sure every single penny counts here at Roots of Peace. So again, happy International Women's Day to all of you. I mean, from pennies, nickels, dimes to paper pennies. You all have such priceless value. And again, I'm just humbled and honored to be a Californian with a little bit of Utah roots to be invited on this distinguished panel today. So Tashakur, as they say, thank you, Indari.
Thank you so much for that, Heidi. And I'm cognizant of time, but I have one more question for the 3 of you. So just really briefly, the theme of this year's International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. Heidi, starting with you, what advice would you give to our audience as they choose to challenge themselves? What advice would you give them?
Well, choose to challenge, join me. Let's create a mind-free world by 2025. Join me. We have the ability to do this. Humankind so unkindly created landmines during the Civil War. Let's show the world the spirit of America. Help me, because I need help getting them out of the ground. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much. Pat, going to you, what advice would you give to our audience as they choose to challenge themselves?
Well, I think, my favorite quote is life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And I think both of these great panelists have mentioned those things that are important to them. I would say I have to challenge women to run for political office. I just have to do that, because if you really want to make change, that's where it's at. It's where you decide who spends the money and where that money comes from and where it goes. And that's really at the source of almost all power, is understanding that and being at the table and helping to design those policies that actually will help women, like childcare, like the things that have been talked about. So many things that, healthcare, education, the environment, gun policy, those kinds of things really do shape our future going forward. So I would say if you're worried about something, you're concerned about something, other people are too, other women are too. So join together, just like Heidi has mentioned and Rochelle has mentioned. And I always like to think, I heard this wonderful quote that said, a leader without followers is just a person taking a walk. And we need to, forge forward and have other people follow with us and lead them in the right way. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pat. And Rochelle, we'll end with you. What advice do you have for our audience as they choose to challenge themselves?
Well, I think we all know that women have been challenged over the last year, and that we've just been handed our first women's recession in the workforce in over 50 years, in which, especially for mothers, where the employment rates have dropped by, or unemployment rates have increased by 4% among mothers in our country in 2020. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some women listening in who are like, I am plenty challenged right now. And I don't know how to, I came here for some advice, not being told I need to have more challenge in my life. But what I'll say is, like, Heidi was talking about cancer is a landmine when you get a cancer diagnosis. And, I'll never forget the day in which November 20th, 2012, I lost my sister in a car accident, and I was at work when I received the news. And that is stepping on a landmine. And the challenge over the next year and beyond was just survival and just showing up. And, I'm grateful to my managers who I had at the time, who were true leaders and caring and met me where I was at in my personal life to help me get through it professionally too. And so if you're in a position where you are a leader in your organization and you have people who are maybe reporting into you, my invitation for challenge is to think through compassionately about the different things that each one of your, staff are dealing with, and to acknowledge that challenge that they're going through right now. And if you don't know, to just ask. And if you are someone who's starting a business, to just press forward through this pandemic and utilize resources like the Women's Business Center and the World Trade Center and Kiva, and apply to Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And there's lots of resources there. Just show up to the Women's Business Center and just say, I need some help, and it's okay to be vulnerable on that. I love the story from our friend with the farm, the local farm here in Salt Lake. And that was just awesome. And there's so many good ideas. And if you are a small business owner or entrepreneur, just take another step forward and share your idea with another person and find out ways that you can get capital and funding. And so I guess that's my challenge for everybody.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you guys so much, all of you. This has been such an incredible panel. We're so honored to have had you today. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us. If you guys want to join these wonderful women with their quests, please let me know. I'd be happy to connect you with Pat, Rochelle, or Heidi. You can learn more about Heidi's Minds Divines at the Leonardo Museum. Obviously, Rochelle's JP Morgan Chase. It's very popular, and I have loved going through the Women's Leadership Institute website and learning more about that as we prepared for this. Again, thank you so much. And Anne-Marie, we will turn back over to you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much, ladies, for being a part of this event and sharing some of your lives and influence so that we can learn from each other and we can press forward. Thank you so very much. Ladies, there are celebrations going on all over this country, all over this world. And I wanted to actually ask you, as part of the theme for this year to challenge, is to raise your right hand, to choose to channel, choose to challenge, because we can make a difference. So if you'll all raise your right hand, we'd love to have everyone together in our hearts and our minds, and mostly in our actions, to choose to challenge. Thank you so very much for being part of our International Women's Day celebration here in the state of Utah. And again, congratulations on being part of a historic event where we had a declaration for today, March 8th, 2021, declared as Women's Day in the state of Utah.